What is your favorite Rupp story that comes to mind? I know there's
I tell about his superstitions, and there are a lot of great stories, and one of the neatest was back, well, this wasn't superstitions, but was with the Rupp's runs. And of course, I thought he was a lot funnier when I was his assistant than I was when I was playing. This afternoon, we were ranked #1. Rupp's runs were undefeated, but we had a bad practice, which is something that very seldom happens. And we were kicking the ball all over the gym. As Coach Rupp said, we were breaking the windows out. And there was a scrimmage and no one was working. They were loafing back on defense. And it was just a dull day. I don't know why or what led up to it, but it was spectacularly dull. Mm-hmm. And Coach just walked out on the floor doing the Y. And he says, cease this disgraceful exhibition. These howling hogs have never seen such a display of inept. And he looked down on the floor, and he dropped clear down on one knee, and he took his finger, and he picked something up off the hardwood. He says, by God, a drop of sweat. Says one of the janitors must have dropped that while he was sweeping.
That's a great.
But you know, Coach Rupp had a sense of humor and a dry wit.
Yeah.
But that's the way he motivated. And other times he could get on you so bad that you look for a crack in the floor to crawl in, and he could just destroy you in a minute. And but he was extremely superstitious, and I don't know the reason for that. Whether it was being here in horse country, I guess horse trainers are about the most superstitious in the world. But Coach Rupp had a booklet that he gave the head manager each year that explained the superstitions that are the procedures that young man had to adhere to.
I didn't know it was in the manual. I didn't know.
Oh yeah, he had a 42-page booklet. and on game night, well, you know, he got up in the morning, and he's told this story himself, or nobody would know it. He dressed in the same way every morning, like left sock first, right socks next, left shoe, right shoe, and he always wore the brown suit on game day. But he drove to the Coliseum by the same route, parked in the same spot, had the same thing for his lunch and the pregame meal, and then as he walked back from the Student Union to Memorial Coliseum, across the street on the sidewalk is a manhole cover. And before he crossed the street, he had to step on that with his right foot every game day. When he came into the locker room on game night, he went to the third locker right inside the door and got a Kleenex and took his glasses off and cleaned his glasses with the Kleenex. And then he wadded up the Kleenex and threw it over beside the trash barrel, never in it. The manager came in and offered him 3 types of chewing gum, and he always took the middle one, which was, I think, beech nut. But he had juicy fruit, spearmint, and beech nut, and he always took the beech nut. Again, he wadded up the papers, put chewing gum in his mouth, and threw the papers down beside the trash can. Then he marked the program and stuck it in the pocket of the assistant to have him report the starters to the scores team. And that's how I always wound up with the program. Then he went out the door and down the ramp, and you remember the fella that was in the white coat, the little janitor, that always took coats from some of the people, some of the boosters, and put them in under the stands. Well, Coach Rupp had to shake hands with him before every game. And that little guy got old, went to the hospital, and they'd have to bring him in on game night to shake Coach Rupp's hand. Coach would then put a towel down on the floor for the players to wipe the dust off their shoes after the warm-up. And that towel had to stay there until the ball was jumped. And after the ball was tipped, only Coach Rupp could pick that towel up. And then he threw it over by the leg of the scores table, where it had to stay until we got our first 2 points. Then the manager could pick it up. And he repeated that at halftime. But his greatest superstition was on game day, you'd find Coach Rupp, Knoxville, Tennessee, Starkville, Mississippi, Gainesville, Florida, walking through motel parking lots looking for women's hairpins. Now that's kind of, that's a little bit shaky.
That's a little strange.
But he felt that if he could find a hairpin on game day and pick that hairpin up, put it in his pocket, it meant a sure win. If when he found it, the open end was pointed towards him, it meant a big blowout, 30-point victory. Well, he had a passion to go out and find a hairpin. Of course, if they had a swimming pool, you could always find them around the swimming pool. But he knew where to find these hairpins. Now, when he got the ulcerated foot, and they had come back out of the hospital, and the first trip we made, he couldn't get out and walk in that parking lot. So naturally, it became the job of the managers. From his door to the bus was to sew hairpins. So they'd go down to Woolworth or someplace and get these boxes of brand new hairpins. And they get in a hurry. They didn't have time to sew them. They just dumped the box outside his door. And it looked like a big anthill out there piled up outside Coach's door, those kind of golden brown hairpins. And Coach would open the door and he'd say, "By George, Joe, look what I found." And he'd bend down and scoop up those hairpins.